Hi, welcome everyone. This is Brittany Tibbin, Account Director at Spindustry. Today's webinar is Embracing the Modern Movement. We'll be looking at SharePoint's new modern UI experience. Today's speaker is Jared Edge. He's our Director of SharePoint here at Spindustry. We have a lot to go through today, but if you have any questions at all, please enter them into the question feature, and we'll do our best to go through those at the end. We'll end at 12:30, but we'll stay around to answer some questions. And without further ado, Jared, go ahead and let you get started.
Thanks, Brittany. All right, so we have a lot to cover, like Brittany said, but I want to kind of go over the agenda, what we're gonna get into. And first of all, I'm just happy that all of you were able to join us today. We try to put on these webinars for our clients and partners and close friends, just to try to get some good information out about the SharePoint product and where Microsoft is today and what they're doing and the direction they're going in. We interact with a lot of clients throughout the United States, and we really, a lot of our partners rely on us to give them information and point them in the right direction, and we just try to do that in a nice way that's, we're not trying to sell you anything today, we just simply want to give you some good information. So with that in mind, our agenda for today is we're going to go through and take a look at a modern UI site and modern UI features. And I hope that if you have looked at modern UI before and maybe you thought, well, it's missing a few things, it's not ready yet, we want to try to show you kind of what it's matured to today and then talk about that path that it has as well. So we're going to look at creating a modern site using some of the modern features. We're also going to look at SharePoint Hub Sites, which is a new feature of SharePoint. It's been out for just a little while, but has really grown up again in a short period of time. We like it. We think we'll try to point out what it does for you and why you want to consider using Hub Sites. It's good stuff. And then we'll take a look at some use cases for doing some custom work inside of your SharePoint. So custom modern UI web parts. And we think that's a very important piece of the puzzle, because what you're going to see as we start talking about the web parts that are available in SharePoint, they haven't covered everything. So if you're used to the classic UI and all the functionality you had there, there's a lot of that missing from the modern UI still. They're going there, don't worry, they'll get there, so don't be discouraged. But still, some of the things aren't there. And so what do you do in the meantime if you need to produce something that's really slick? But even more than that, what if you're just tired of maybe cobbling things together the SharePoint way and you kind of want to make it more user friendly? So I'm going to go through a use case or two for what we've done for some of our clients to make that a richer environment for our for the users. And so we'll also look ahead at modern UI and the app web parts, just look at the timelines and kind of see what's out there. I've already had a couple of questions come in, and I'll try to answer some of those questions as well. So we'll see what happens there. And then we'll discuss what the gap is between modern UI and classic. Just, the reason for that is not to point out there's a big, huge difference or anything like that. Really what it is to say, if you're about to jump in the modern UI, maybe here's just a couple of things to think about before you completely make that move. What we see some people get into is they get partial way into switching over to modern UI, and then they're like, oh wait, it doesn't do that. And it's like, yeah, we probably could have told you that before you began. So just want to maybe, if we have time at the end there, talk about some of those things that we think are either still coming or, it's not on the board yet. All right, so before we get into some of that, I really want to talk about this message that came out from Microsoft. So back in February, I started getting a lot of emails from clients, and they were like, oh my gosh, they're making us move to modern. They're making us move to modern. Well, they've been making you move to modern for a really long time, so don't worry about that. But there are clients who want to stay classic, or they have certain sites that they need to stay classic, or there's certain functionality they need to continue to use and retain. Well, when this message came out, it scared a lot of people, and they sent me a lot of emails. And all it really said was the opt-out feature inside of the tenant admin is going away. So they're not going to give you that chance to opt out anymore. The default settings are going to be create modern lists and libraries inside of SharePoint. And that's okay. That's okay. Because if you read down, see, and everyone stopped reading at the beginning of this. So, it kind of sounded like, oh my gosh, they're making us all go modern. And that's not the case. if you read further down to the bottom of it, they said the absolute most wonderful thing that you could ever hear if you're interested in maintaining Classic and stopping the reaction where it switches from one to the other, like your library is modern 1 minute and then it's Classic another minute. If you want to control some of that, this last line here, this last paragraph says administrators can use a PowerShell script to enable or disable modern experience for a single site collection. And that is absolutely wonderful. So yeah, you have to do it. You have to be an administrator to do it. Yeah, you need to understand PowerShell, but the script is written out there already, so it's not like you have to figure out how to write the script. Someone else wrote it for you. And so you just need to run that. And then all of a sudden, boom, you can keep that site as Classic. And that, like I said, for some, that's important. For others, it's not as important. And for others of you, you're trying to make that switch to what Microsoft wants it to be in, and that is the modern UI. So, okay, with that said, let's talk about, just get some groundwork laid here. Okay, so today, in today's intranet, there are certain things that you want to make sure you have. I think collaboration is a key piece for everyone. And so we all know that SharePoint as a whole is a great collaboration tool, along with all the other pieces of Office 365, like Microsoft Teams, which allows us to be very agile and such, which uses SharePoint in the background. But also your experience there should be SharePoint and Teams, not just SharePoint or Teams. It should be both, and you really need to figure that out quick and get that all together and get it moving. Next month, we have a webinar on Microsoft Teams. I have a slide at the end that'll tell you all about that. You don't want to miss that, because we're going to try to share what we've come up with and what some of our partners have come up with in the process. So some other things you want to see in your intranet is actions and activities. I kind of want to be able to create call to actions for certain things. Hey, register for this, register for that, or not just push out news to them, which I want as well, but to be able to get them to react and participate in the experience of the SharePoint intranet, because we know if they're doing that, then the information we're putting out there is useful, and that's good for us to know, because we want to be able to continue to put out more useful information on our intranets. So in addition to that, we want to be mobile. So the good thing, the best thing about the modern UI, what has always been the best thing about it, is that it's already mobile friendly, because it was built for the mobile phone first, and they build that way, and that's awesome. So what we're going to see is, out of the box, it's already responsive, if you're familiar with that term, and that is absolutely wonderful. We want that in our intranet. So we want our people out there on their cell phones, we want them on their desktops, we want them on their iPads and such. And that goes to culture. I mean, we have people who grew up in different ages inside of our organizations. Brittany, I think she calls herself a millennial. I don't really know what that means, but she referred to herself one day as a millennial, so she is. And I refer to myself as just old. And so, for me, I don't even know what an iPad is. No, I'm just kidding, I do. But you might have people who don't know what iPads are, don't use phones, or still have flip phones or something like that. You want that experience on a desktop to be great for them, but you also want that experience to be great for everyone in the company, regardless of their culture, their age, their background, whether they're line workers who are out in trucks out on farms, or whether they are people who are in an office who wear suits every day. We need this experience to be good for all of them, and that's something that this is going to allow us to do. It's going to bring us all together. Brittany and I were talking about how people learn. Some people learn from their visual, and some people are like to just hear it and they can grasp it. Well, we want that same experience inside of our intranet. If a video helps you, I'm going to put a video on this site, and I want it to be something that I can control, secure, and all those types of things as well. And so our modern UI features are going to allow us to do that, along with the other pieces of Office 365 as well. So content is always important. We want to push out really good content to our people. Fresh content is always better than just content. If you put the same thing up every day, then if I come back and see it's the same, I can stop coming back because I know it's the same. So I want to see fresh things out there, things that interest me and draw my attention or notify me of it, that it's coming, something like that. Communication, your marketing department, your communications department, if you're a large organization, those guys need to be able to communicate with the organization. So how do they do that? You can put a plan in place inside of your Office 365 environment and inside of your SharePoints to give them an outlet to be able to communicate with the rest of the organization. I mean, and communication could also mean, hey, the CEO of the company or the CIO or somebody like that needs a space to be able to just put out their words to the company and keep everybody moving forward. So we'll keep all those things in mind. as we're going through it and looking at some of our intranet. So kind of what I wanted to do today is just jump into some demos and start taking a look at what is this new modern UI. So for those who are here and I know a couple of people emailed me and have never really looked into the modern UI at first, so this is going to be awesome for you. Some of you are using the modern UI and you just really have some questions about, does this work yet? Does this work yet? Does this work yet? So I can't answer every single one of those questions, but what I can do is give you a place to actually go and stay on top of what's coming out, and I'll do that after we get through a couple of demos. And so with that said, let's go ahead and jump in. And some of the demos we're going to look at here are just the modern UI sites. We'll take a look at what they do, the different types that you can have as well. What does it mean? What are the modern pieces that are there? We'll look at creating a modern site, and we'll look at connecting some things together with hub sites. So as we decided to run through a draft run of this, we were going to go through and actually just create a bunch of things on the fly. And with speed and connections and all those things, we realized that's going to take too much time, and we're gonna run out of being able to show every feature we want to show. So we went and pre-built a few things just to make it a little bit more seamless. So without any more there, let's just go out and take a look. All right. So I have here a communication site. So first I should say that there are two different types of sites that could be created, and I'm just going to click on this create. Actually, I'm going to show you two ways to do it. So if you're an admin person, you want to go to the SharePoint admin, and in the SharePoint admin, you have, of course, your old way of creating a site collection, which is fine. You can create a new site collection, and those site collections that you create from here can participate in hub sites and all the other things. I think the one thing that I could tell everybody that would make this, would cut through all of the advertising that Microsoft does and would cut through all the arguments that everyone has about which is better, I would tell you this: every single site in SharePoint is the same, regardless of how it was created. They're all exactly the same. They're built on the same thing. So if you have a classic site and you want to make it modern, you're just going to turn on the modern features and boom, you are there. If you have a modern site and you decide I need to use something that was, back in classic, so I need a page just so I can use some of the classic web parts, you can turn on all the features that need to be there, and you can use that classic piece. You may have to run a PowerShell script in certain sites to turn on some things, but it is all doable. Most of it very easy to do by a power user or a site owner or a site collection administrator. So just kind of get the myth out of the way. The separation and the argument started when they decided to call one modern and one classic, because it sounds like modern is just the newest thing in the world and I got to be there. But I'll be very honest with you, when we go to our clients and we want to go modern, but when they describe to us what they want us to create for them, a lot of times we have to say, you know what, you can't do that in modern. So either you need to do it the modern way, or we need to go classic. And a lot of times they'll pick classic. I just want to make sure that everybody understands that that's okay. And even later, if they want to add some modern pieces into that, that is okay. And then when modern catches up, if they want to just switch over, that is also okay. Okay, so I can create regular sites. If you're an admin, you've seen this already, so I'm not going to do anything there. But what you want to be in really is the new admin center for SharePoint. So you're going to click on that, try it now. If you haven't already done it, don't be afraid, it's all good. Okay, and then once you get in there, what you'll see here is that there are way more site collections out there than you thought. That's the first surprise that you'll get, because people have been creating groups, and those groups have been generating Office 360 or SharePoint site collections. So you get reporting and things like that inside of here as well. I'm not going to go over any of that, but over here under active sites, this is where you would see all of your sites. And I'll come back to this page in just a second, or a little bit later, to show you how we connect possible ways of creating a hub site and then also connecting a site to a hub site. All right, so this is just a place where I'd see all of that at. And so I have a site called ComSite, which don't worry about trying to read that, I'll show it to you. And I've already made it a hub. So that is the site that we're looking at here, okay? This is the hub site that I created. So the fact that it's a hub site really means nothing. The fact that it's a communication site means everything, and we're going to go through what that means. So one type of site that you can create is a communication site. I'm going to take a look at what that means. So back over here in the SharePoint Admin Center, when I go to create, okay, what I get is a dialog that says you have basically two types of things you can create, okay, and that'll be up in just a second. And one of those is to create a team site, and the other one is create a communication site. And try not to get the communication site confused with that community site that you used to create over in SharePoint, or really, you probably never created one of those in SharePoint. So team sites and then communication sites. And I'll just show you real quick what that means. So a team site, basically, this is an old picture, so don't worry about this older picture, but a team site does have the left-hand navigation on it, and it also has a header. The header now goes all the way across. This is a little bit older, like last year's picture. But it is also responsive and shows very, very well inside of a mobile phone. But it also shows up really well. The pages show up really well inside of your SharePoint app. Don't forget about the SharePoint app. Don't discount it. That's a beautiful thing. Okay, they've made a lot of progress there. It's awesome. I love it. We use it all the time. Then we have communication site, and if you can look here to see the difference between those two, the main difference is this one is full width across the screen. So if you were familiar with Oslo and Seattle, bang your hands together. Okay, so if you're familiar with those, that's really what you still have. So your team sites are basically Seattle, and your communication site is Oslo because it's full width. All right, but they're modern, so they have a lot more features and a lot more coolness than Seattle and Oslo had. So, all right, I'm not going to create any of those because I already have it done. So let me just jump out of there. There we go. All right, so we'll come back over here and we'll start experiencing this communication site for just a second. All right, so as soon as that refreshes there. All righty. Okay, so our communication site, again, it's full width. This out of the box, it came with this big gigantic hero on it, and I didn't change anything in the hero. It's just a bunch of information. But you can, this hero is adjustable. Okay, you can make it do different things. You can have one giant square and then 3 squares, or one giant square and 4 squares. So you have some options in there when you edit it, and I'll go through how to edit things in just a minute. But I've already decorated this with a few things on it that I just wanted to show that are just out of the box features of this new modern UI, which are really cool. So I have this news inside of here, and I'm going to show you how to add news in just a second. I'm just going to preview everything first. So inside of here, I see that there's 4 news items, and this is all responsive, okay, which is really, really nice. I'll show it in responsive mode in just a second. I have some events. That's an out-of-the-box web part. So things that I'm looking at having on my main communication site or on my main opening portal, these are things that I want to have there. So this is events and news. Maybe I wanted some documents that are important documents to everyone. So I've got that over here. And this is not a document library, although it could be a document library if you wanted to put one on there, just putting that widget on there. But it's not. It's actually a highlighted content web part that went out. It's going out and searching for information and bringing it back and displaying it on this page. Okay. And then down here, I have 2 web parts, or a web part that I think is really cool, which is the being able to add a person in your organization onto here. And you saw that when I hovered over it, it just opened up and gives me a world of information about this specific contact, which is really, really awesome. So I like that. I mean, look, I'm even getting LinkedIn information. If Patty had LinkedIn information, it would show up there as well. This is really cool. Okay, this is really nice functionality already built out inside of there. Now, this is not everything that I could put on there, but I'm going to show you some all the things that could go on this page in just a few minutes. Okay, but let's just take a look at it still. All right, and just one point. So as in the new version of this, or the latest and greatest, in the new version, this bar right here, only people who can edit would see this. And so in users, there's no gap in between this space, just in case you were going to ask me that question. All right, the cool thing about this, look at some of the features on here. Yes, my community site, or my com site, still has its own menu, but I don't really need that if I don't want it. So I could just eliminate all these and I'd have nothing sitting here, just the name of the site, which is kind of cool, and the logo of the site. I could really, if I'm going with hub sites, you might consider I don't need a menu here. I've got the menu for the hub site up here, and I'll show you more about that just as we go forward. You will see that because I've made this a hub site, it's able to create sites from here, and it has this create site icon for people who have permissions to do that. I'm not 100% sure I like that being there or not, but that same, it gives me that same experience. So if I click on it, it brings up that same thing you just saw when I was in the admin center. Okay, it gives me those 2 options again. And then those same options are under the SharePoint dashboard. So let me just open that up real quick. And if you haven't done anything to try to deactivate this in your SharePoint environment, then that create site is also right here on the SharePoint dashboard. So many ways to go and create those same two things that you saw as I was in the admin center. All right, so note real quick the search, okay? And let me just see if I can zoom in on that just a little bit, just zoom it up. Okay, so it says search across sites on it, okay? Which is not something that you normally see when we're looking at the search inside of SharePoint. What we normally see is search this site or search everything or search for people and so forth. And so what we're seeing here is if I have a hub site, I can search across the hub sites. So as we talk more about that, keep that in mind, okay? And I'll come back to that and how the hub sites are connected. But I think that's really interesting. I think that's really nice to be able to search all the content areas that are associated with this particular place. And I think that's really cool. The team sites don't have the search over here up at the top, and I'll go through them in a minute. They have the search on the left-hand side. I'm not a fan of that, okay? But it is what it is. I'm willing to accept it and continue to move forward, okay? And then it does some weird things, so I'll talk about that. So how did I get to this point? How did I get this page? How did I get all these pieces on it and all that kind of stuff? I simply edited this page, and that was pretty easy to do. So I just clicked the edit button, okay? And when I edit it, it opens up the page so that I can go through and do things. So if you are familiar with some of the newer features of like WordPress or Wix sites and things like that, if you ever created any of those types of sites, they have some of these features already, which is these little tiles or these little plus signs that drill down. So I'm gonna go down to the bottom and show you that I could add another section inside of here very easily by just clicking on this button. Okay, and it will give me the options for the type of section that I want. All right, come on, help me out here. My machine's being a little bit slow. There we go. All right, so I can say, hey, I want one column across, or I want 2 columns, or 3 columns, or a 1/3, 2/3, or 2/3, 1/3, or in communication sites, I have this full width column as well. So I get those choices in there, and I think that's pretty neat. Okay, and so I can split up a new section. So up here, I have this section of the page in 2 parts. Okay, and then I have this section up here as one full width. Okay, and I'll show you different designs in different pages. So once I get that in there, then it's just about adding content to the different sections. So you just hover, it shows you a plus sign. I'll wait for that to appear for you guys because I know that's being a little bit slow right now. And then when I click that plus sign, okay, then it opens up and says, hey, Jared, here's all the things you could add right here. So if you had developers creating custom parts for this, then those custom parts would also show up here. Okay, if you don't have any of that, you get everything that's built in out of the box. But out of the box is pretty nice. So out of the box, I could say, hey, I want a big gigantic text section on here. I'll show you more of that in just a minute. Or an image on here, great. Or a file viewer to go look at a bunch of files that I have. Or links, I just want to create some links. And there's another one for quick links that I like better than just the link one. Embed some code here, like embed a YouTube video or something like that. But you really don't have to do it through there because if I scroll down to the bottom, I actually have a piece down there for YouTube, which is nice. Highlighted content, so that's that content, that web part that is actually pulling in a search. So this is the closest thing that we have to the content search web part. So those who are professionals with this or have been working with Classic SharePoint for a while and who have been going in and using the content search web part to target different information and then display it in a specific way, this is the closest thing we have to that. They're trying to develop it. They're really trying to capture all of the stuff that's inside the content search web part, but they are truthfully not there yet, okay? But it's still good, so go ahead and use it. I noticed that in the last couple of months, they added in, like, you could target metadata and things like that. So it's on its way. It's really good. Keep it in mind. Just keep visiting back to find out, what's new about it, things like that. Okay, and then, oops, didn't mean that. Go back in there. So coming on down, I see Bing Maps. So you have a meeting set up and you create a post about it and you want to put that out there. And it's a meeting at a certain address, maybe a different city or something like that. And rather than just type the address on there, you can actually put a Bing map on there, which is really nice. Okay, code snippets. Okay, so if you're a developer in this meeting, I just want to apologize on behalf of everyone in the world for this code snippets thing. So when I first saw it, I freaked out. I was like, yes, this is the best thing in the world, because one of the things that we're missing in modern UI still, and it's okay, don't worry about it. One of the things we're missing in modern UI is the ability to embed JavaScript or embed code inside of here without really being a developer, okay? So there's someone out there who is a developer created a web part that you can add into your modern UI that will allow you to embed script inside of there. So just go research that and pull that offline, pull that from online. But I thought this was it. So I thought this is Microsoft went ahead and did that, added this functionality in it, and it is absolutely not. This is really nice if you're a developer and you have a site for the rest of your developers and you want to show how some code works. This will allow you to format the code and put it on your page. I'm going to go ahead and just click on it since I'm talking about it. So I could put JavaScript in here or C# or HTML or whatever I want, and it'll just display that code inside of here for me. So if I type a script tag, if I can spell it, there you go. And I come down and put a ending script tag. You know, that's it. And it is just going to show up just like that, text on my page. Okay, and it can color code page and make it look all neat and nice and all that kind of stuff. And it's cute, but I was expecting more. But you know, it is what it is. I accept everything. So a really nice tool that I'm going to show on a different page is the countdown timer. I really like that because again, we want to be able to put some call to actions on a page. So here's a training session that we have, an internal training session, and I need people to register for that so I know how many are coming. Well, I want to just have this web part on there. It has a link to where they can go to register. It has a button they can click and a message that I can give them to say, click on this. And I just set the date for it, and all of a sudden it's ready to go. And it counts down until the time that the class happens. And that's really, really nice. I like that feature. I would not have thought of creating something like that and putting it on a page, but Microsoft did because they're sometimes smarter than I am. So I have things like group calendars. I have hero, which I can put into a section of the page as well. But I think the hero looks best when it's 100% width at the top of the page. I have an image gallery, which allow you to have like a little scroller inside of there. In the past, it hasn't been automatically scrolling. I haven't checked back on it recently to see if they have it so that it automatically scrolls. But that's something that would be added. So the key that you're hearing me saying here is Microsoft creates stuff, and they do this in a different pattern than we're used to in the past. Now what they do is say, we know that it's not done yet, but it has this much functionality. It has A, B, and C. We're going to give that to you. Start using A, B, and C if you want to. And then later we'll add D, E, F, G, and all the rest of the stuff onto it. And they just, every month you might see that something changes inside of there, and it's just getting better. It doesn't get worse. It just gets better along the way, which is nice. So list properties, list, you can even put a Kindle instant review, preview on there. I don't know why you do that, but you can do it. Markdown has to do with coding. Microsoft Forms, Power Apps. So if you have a bunch of Power Apps that you've created for your organization, you can pull that over and put it right here on a page if you want to. News is kind of cool because that's what you're seeing over here, and we'll talk more about that in just a second. So you have two videos on here. You have two Office 365 types of video. So you have Office 365 video, which is the old school video hub, and then you have Stream, whoops, which is down here. So you have Stream. So you have both of those. I just suggest moving over to Streams unless you already have a bunch of content in Video Hub. Page properties. So people, that is this people profiles that I put down here. Really nice. You can embed Power BI reports right here into your page, which is also nice because when you're creating those reports, you kind of want them to be as dashboards. You can take those widgets and just put them right here on the page, and people have a page to go to in SharePoint instead of having to leave here and go out to Power BI to see it. Quick charts is another example of functionality trickling in. When I first introduced it, it would give me a pie chart, you know, and I could put the numbers in to make the pie chart, but I had to manually put the numbers in to make the pie chart, and I thought that's not helpful for anybody. But then lately, you can go in there and look at it now, and you'll see that you can actually connect it to a list and such and have it drive from a list. So I think that's really cool, and that's just another testimony on how they're working there, how they're working in the background. So quick links are really nice too, just putting a bunch of links, and it has the ability to read what kind of icon it wants on there, so you can have it automatically do the icon, or you can put an icon in there, which is really nice. And then you have like site activity, recent documents, saved items in SharePoint. There's a list of sites, so I can connect, you know, if I have multiple sites connected to my hub site, but I want to put like previews of those sites onto the page, you could do that if you wanted to. And then you'll see other things like Twitter, Yammer, YouTube, weather is always nice. inside of there. It's a little thing, but it just makes it nicer, especially if you have people who work in different areas of the United States. It's really kind of cool. So to create all that, I just added simple things to there, and then when I'm finished with that, I just go ahead and either save this as a draft so that other people who can have draft permissions can come in and look at it and edit too, or just go ahead and publish it. So the publishing process is a little bit easier than it was inside of the Classic environment, which is also okay for us. We're accepting that. So here, as a person who can still edit this page, notice I'm not in edit mode, right? But let's just say I just saw something happen on CNN or some place that has good news or something like that, and so I could go out here and add that into here. So you have two ways of adding news. You can either add your own post, which creates a brand new page, which I think is really cool because it helps you with page creation. You're already used to how to create a page anyway. Instead of maybe creating a PDF and putting it out there as a document for people to go to and look at, create a page. And now it's searchable content inside of SharePoint. It's fresh, it looks nice, and you can put multiple things on there along with your message, which is really cool. I'll do one of those in just a second. But I think this is the coolest feature I've seen so far, which is the news link. So I'm just going to click that. And I'm going to put a URL inside of here, HTTP, let's see, www.spindustry.com. And then it's automatically going to go out and look at the content on that page and bring it back for me and say, hey, this is what we think we could have on this page as a news item, and boom. It ends up just being a click going out to that site, right? So if it has pictures that it can find also, it'll pull those over. Let me see if I can find somebody that has a nice picture on their site. See if Google does it. No, not yet. So I'm going to go ahead and put Spindustry in here and just let it ride. Spindustry, oops. There we go. Oh, there you go, I found a picture of it. And then I'll just post that. And now that post is right there inside of my news. Wait for it. Boom, it's the next news article. It's on top. It's very nice. It's well laid out. This is beautiful. And then if a user clicks on it, it just takes them out to that site. And I think that is so awesome that I mean, that gives me a way to sometimes it's hard to go through the process of creating a bunch of news, fresh content, and things like that. Now you're just looking at things that are relevant and bringing them in. And I think that's the way to go.
I hope everyone saw how easy that was. I'm coming from my side of things. Jared is a fantastic developer. I am not a developer when it comes to coding and whatnot, and everything is just so easy to use on here. Just a few clicks, 30 seconds, and it's automatically formatted. It automatically brings in the picture. It's just so efficient.
Yep, very, very nice. And events are kind of the same way. Adding an event is super simple. I'm going to go here and click on Add an Event. Wait for that page to refresh. Okay, and it says, hey, it knows what today's date is and such, but if you change the date down here, it'll change up there. So I'm just going to pick a date in the future. Let's just go to the 4th. There you go. And now it changes up here. And put a name for it. Star Wars Day. I don't really know if that's true, but it's an all-day event. Okay, and then where, I don't know. Let's just say it's at the Des Moines Airport or something like that. TSM. There you go. It's at the Des Moines Airport. And there it puts up a Bing map for me. You can put categories on it if you want to. This is definitely business, And then you can go in and you can add content to it as well. Just a test. Okay, and then also you'll see that I can add who should they contact about these things. So I'm going to add Patty in here because I know she's in this system. There you go. And I can add Jared also as a backup. There we go. And so now I have people associated. So again, 30 seconds to put it all in. Really weird stuff, right? Okay, and then I'll just save it. And now I have another event on there. Okay, so wait for that to refresh for you. And then we'll see it. So these are very easy things to do. If I go back to my main page, wait for it. There we go. And so that other event is now sitting on here somewhere after the mini refreshes I just did. Okay, so to see all of it, I'm showing right now I have it showing 2 events, but watch what happens when I go responsive and how it'll now include even more events just based on how the page is laid out. So the way I'm showing this right now is to have a scroller on it. And so there's the actual other date, but you can display this in multiple ways. Not only can you choose to display it in multiple ways, but when it goes responsive, it knows the best way to show it when it's responsive. So let's take a look at that real quick now that I've decorated this page with some information. So if I take this down to the size of a cell phone, which thankfully it just did exactly that, okay, oops, there we go. So I take it down to the size of a cell phone, and now you'll notice that my hero has changed what it does, and it's very user-friendly for a phone. They can swipe left, I think that's what it is you do, you know, and so, or you can just click here on the icons, and boom, it goes. It also has my news, which is a little bit more discreet now. It's showing less data than it showed when it was in the full screen version. Then here's my names. They're being responsive as well, just kind of going under each other. Here's my events, and notice how it's showing all 3 events, not just 2 of them. Okay, and then down here, my documents that are there, and there's that little script piece I need to take off the page. Okay, so very, very nice, very, very friendly. Okay, also other things have happened. So my search up here, you know, was kind of a big text box. Now when I click in it, now it appears there. In addition to that, there's this little dot, dot, dot there, and if I can click on it, there we go. I see there's those 3 other items that were on my page at the top for the create and following. Okay, and then in addition to that, over here on the left-hand side where my waffles were when I'm in large screen, okay, this right here is my menu for my site, and this is the hub menu on top of that, okay, with all the drill downs. And notice that this is in drill down format, so this is responsive, it's in drill down format. When we get to it later and see it in full screen, it's actually a different type of menu, which is really, really nice. So what happened to the waffle and all those things? Great question, glad you asked that. Okay, right over here on this side, when I click on this, the waffle is now here, and I get everything that I'm supposed to have. So they've taken care of all that. You know, that is really, really nice. Now, we've done a lot of classic sites and turned them in responsive, and we had to do the code and deploy design packages to do all of this stuff to get it up to a point where it looks like this. And that's an investment for an organization. A lot of people like to do that. It's an investment for an organization. But here, I got all of that out of the box, and that is really, really extraordinary. So let's go back here, and let's take a look at a different site. This is a communication site, and I'm going to show you a team site. So I have a couple of those created here under my IT site. And here's the hub, the super menu, which is awesome. I love this. Okay, so I'm going to go here to a team site. Give that a chance to refresh. So a team site is not full width. It has the left-hand navigation on the side, but everything in the middle, pages, all that stuff is exactly the same. So I can add all the same things to this that I had to the other, right? The thing I have over here on the side is, and the thing you need to be careful about, make sure you train your users on this, because this is a little bit annoying for an end user. What you see on the left-hand side here is that I have a search this site, okay, which will search this site. If I go to a library though, wait for it, which this is a modern library, and just on that point, libraries can be either in modern or in classic. When you're in modern, you get more of the modern features, like it automatically can connect you to Microsoft Flow. It automatically, it does views a little bit differently. When you're in the middle of the page, you can add columns and all that kind of stuff from here. You can even take the size of the width of the columns and move them back and forth. You can inject another column inside of here. So there's a lot of features of modern that the modern libraries that you'll like. And some of it, again, is still being refined. Okay, so it's there. It's not going to go away. You might as well start using it, getting used to it, and getting comfortable with it. But it will grow along the way. All right. So when I'm in here, this search that I see here is no longer searching the site. It is searching just this library. So you need to be aware of that. But the key is, it doesn't really matter where they search from for the most part. So if I'm back on my home page for this site, okay, I'm not at the hub level. I'm just at the team 1 level. Okay, if I'm here and I do a search for something, wait for it to redraw. Okay, and your environment will be a lot faster than what we have here. What we're doing is broadcasting at the same time and all that kind of stuff. So it's a little bit slower. So inside of here, I'm just going to do a search for team. Okay, and we get a new type of results page here. All right. So if you're looking at our results page, what you're seeing here is it looked inside of the Team 1 site. So I've narrowed it all the way down to Team 1 site. But it knows it's a part of the hub, and it says, hey, if you want to go backwards, you can just go up to the hub level and teach. Or if you want to go search for everything, you can click here to go all the way back up. So it's a little bit different experience than the classic search results pages or the one that's inside of the search center, which still exists for you. So it's a little bit different experience. I don't know. The jury's out on whether I really like this better than the last version. But when I hover over things here, I liked what I got before. Like, I liked the pop-up that happened. Maybe some people didn't, and maybe I just need to let go. But I liked what I got before. Here I can drill down a little bit and see different things, but I really liked just getting that pop-up from before. I don't know. It's just me. But it's still functional. It still works, and you can still do filters and all of those types of things. And so if you're doing you probably need to do a little bit of work to do like manage metadata or search schema, refiners and things like that, but it's all still possible to do. All right, so let me exit out of that search. Okay, so a team site is still basically just the same thing. It's just the layout of the site. Now I will mention this, okay? So the page, I'm going to try to introduce it to you. Don't take this as literally, but this is how I would introduce it to you. The page does not consist of this left-hand navigation or the header, okay, or the search or these bars. The page is just this middle piece here, okay? And the reason that I say that is because some of you are going to want to tie a page from a team site, into Microsoft Teams, okay? And when you do that, which is very possible to do, and it's actually awesome to do, when you do that, what you're going to get as the page result, or when it views the page in Teams, is just this middle section without the header and without the side navigation. However, what I've recently found out is that if you have a hub site and you do that, the hub's navigation does show up on top of it. So you would just see this part. You would just see this part, which would be the bottom of the page here. I'm just plugging in, sorry. There we go. So you would see this bottom portion of everything, but then right above it, where maybe this new is and all this, would be the hub's navigation bar. So that's what you would see there if you're inside of Teams, which is really nice. So I'm happy about that feature because we are very into integrating our SharePoint sites into our Teams so that our users just need to go to one place, which is Teams, work there, and see all the pages they need to be able to see. So we like that. Okay, so I'm going to leave this particular site and go to another one. Okay, and start talking about hubs and how the hub tied it together. But I'm going to go to this learning center that I created and just show you a couple of extra features that I added onto a specific page. All right, so in my learning site, which is opening for me. There we go. So in my training site that I created here, I just wanted to show off a couple of features as well. So this is a newer development for Modern UI. So if you were in like last year's Modern UI, you may not have had this feature, but if you're in this year's Modern UI, you now have this feature, which is really nice. So this is just a team site again. So it's not about the team site, it's more about this page, and I'll edit it and show you how I did it. So I basically have some training news here, and look, my layout for news is different this time because I told it lay it out in a larger format, and I gave it more space to be laid out in as well. And then I have this training links sitting over here. Okay, which I just created some quick links in, which is very cool. But look at this nice little section down here. So I have another section of the page, which all I put in it was just some people and some lines, but I made that whole section's background a different color, which makes it actually stand out. It's less white space on the page, and I really like that feature. And then down at the bottom, I have it back in white again, so just a new section down here. And inside of it, I used some things from Stream. So I brought over some videos from Stream, which is really, again, another nice feature to be able to do. So these are some nice things that you can do on a page. I want to talk about this one training thing here. So what happens if I want to go in and add more news? So I showed you earlier that you could add a link, but when you go to add a post, okay, I'm going to click on this and then I'm going to get rid of this page. But when you click on to add a post and it opens up, it allows you to put in your name of the post. So I'm just going to call this test post. Okay, and then you can put in you if you want someone to be able to respond to you or something like that, or contact you about this post. So I'll put in me. I'll try to put in me. Come on. You can do it. All right, we'll give it a second to try to catch up. All right, well, I'll leave that there for time purposes. But I'm going to go in and edit this. I want to talk about this top header, sorry. So I'll click here on this edit, and I get a lot of choices now for what I can do. First of all, you can enter additional text that'll come above this. So I'm going to put that this is the Spin 23 training. Oops. Okay, and it puts this nice little line. I don't know why I love that feature so much, but to me, that is one of the coolest features I've ever seen. So I don't know. I don't really get why I like it so much, but it's there. There we go. He's all in now. Jared. Oh, he's not in yet. All right, we'll work with him later. So I also have these 4 options up here. So I have the standard, which you may be used to if you're already using the modern UI, which I can modify this picture by clicking on this icon over here. I'm not going to do that right now. And then over here, I can say, oh, you know what? I like it as plain. So get rid of all of that stuff. Get rid of the image, the big image in the background, and just tighten up the page a little bit so people can get to the content. And then I have here this color block as well. So note how big the picture got. Okay, so now you can have this big, huge image at the top with basically your text and stuff over top of it. I like this. I think this is cute. And then you have overlap, which I'm not really a fan of. If the background for overlap was better, I might be better with it, but I don't know. I'm not a fan of that one. So my favorite right now is the color block. Okay, and let me just go ahead and save this real quick. And I'm going to jump out to this other page that I have and show it to you. So let me just go back to the training home. Okay, you see all the flyovers that are here. Very informational as you go through and do stuff. Wait for it. All right, it's working on it. All right, so I'm back on my home page. So I created a page here because there's a workshop coming up on NPM, and I wanted everybody to know about it. So I just created a page and posted it out here as training news. And I'm going to click on that and look at what I have on this page. I mean, this took me all of 5 minutes to create. You know, it's really, really nice. Huge picture in there. I love it. You know, big old picture. Nice little shading over here. Got all my information in here on what it is, where it's coming from. I like it. Got my name in there for this one. Great. Do you think I did that in advance? And then here, these are just nice little hover overs. And again, it gives you all the information about me, which is awesome. So if you want to call me. Then I have just a bunch of text over here, just a text section that I created and dropped some text in. But look at this guy right here. This is that countdown. I really like this. So it's 84 days to the actual event, but it's a call out. It's a call to action, and that's important for us to be able to have on our sites when we want someone to do something. So I've got this click to register here, and they click it, it'll take them out to where they can register for the class. That could be a SharePoint library or a SharePoint list that I have set up, or a SharePoint form, or it could be just to some other site that I have, like, you know, to register people for whatever. So I really, really think this is really cool. I like it. I'm just going to edit this and just show you that web part real quick. The 2 web parts I have on here. There we go. And so I'm going to edit this guy. And he's really simple. He just allows me to plug in the date that I want it to count down to. Tell it to count down or count up. Okay. And then also, you know, what do we display on the timer? So I have mine set to show days, hours, minutes, and seconds. Okay. And then also further down, you'll see I added the call to action so that button's down there as well. There you go. Give that a second to refresh while I talk about some other things. All right, so I've basically shown a lot of different things about, you know, web parts that can be on here and items that can be on here, how easy it is to create the page. And I think you'd all agree that it's pretty easy to create the items here inside of SharePoint that we've seen so far. So I want to just concentrate on the hub site for just a second and kind of shift gears, and then I'll go back to some slides and do some cleanup. Okay, so when we're talking about the hub sites, and I've talked a lot about them already as far as what they can do, but I just want to kind of show how do I get a site to be in a hub site. So I'm going to go back to my SharePoint admin, okay, and I have tons of site collections inside of here. Basically, if you just highlight any one of those site collections, okay, it'll give you the option at the top to create that as a hub site. Okay, so you can register it as a hub site, or you can from here associate it with another hub site. Okay, and I think that's awesome. So that's very simple to be able to do. You can have multiple hub sites. That's not a problem. And I'll show a couple of slides to kind of maybe talk over that concept. You know, how would I want to? I kind of want to make sure that I plan these out ahead of time. I don't necessarily want to arbitrarily do it, but this really gives us some things that we couldn't do before. So in Classic, we would have to basically put on paper ahead of time how we're going to lay out the site collections and what things we're going to go under each site collection. And I don't really have to be that exact anymore. I still do want to do that for governance purposes, but now I can be very flexible after the fact. And so now when I have a site that's already been created and I think, you know what, I really want it associated more with this other site. It's part of sales. So I'm going to associate it with sales instead of having it over under marketing, right? And so I can create a hub site for sales and then just start associating sites to it, and then they'll all appear to users as if they're in the same place. So one, it gives us a way to group sites together. That's what hub sites do, one. Okay, what else does it do, Jared? Great question, Brittany. So the other things it does, so it gives me this beautiful navigation, these beautiful navigation options. Okay, so my navigation here, and I'm going to go back to the actual com site. My navigation here is on top. I like that, so that's a good position for it. I like where it's located. Okay, it allows me to go and put in what I want. So I have these mega menus in here, and I love a mega menu, right? And so I've got inside of here, these are all headings at the top layer. This is a heading as well. And then under it, I have different links to them. And so for my IT, you know, for IT sites, I can go in, I have the IT team information. Then I have, hey, you need help? Click on these links over here. I mean, this is just really, really well laid out, and I like it. If you are into drop downs or pop outs, you can still have those. You can set the option to do that instead. But why wouldn't you want to go with this? This is really nice. It's very readable. It looks really nice. So notice though how this is how it shows when I'm in full screen, but when I was in cellular mode, if you will, mobile mode, it just showed as little pop-outs. And so it's also built to be responsive, which is outstanding. When you edit it, all you're really doing here is I click on edit, and on the side, you're just laying it out. This is how the modern UI menus are done all the time. And so you can add another item right in the middle here, you know, so boom, add another item, and you can move them up and down. You can promote them or demote them, or, you know, make them sublinks or make them headers. When you create a new one, let me just go ahead and click on that real quick. When you create a new one, you have a choice of whether it's a URL or whether it's a header. So you make that decision as to whether it's clickable or not. So it's very intuitive, very easy to use. You don't have to really do much research on how to use it. You just need to know where the edit button is and you're good. Okay, so I'm at the top level site, and I'm going to go to my cog here, and I have hub site settings, and I have changed the look. So I'm going to go to both of those. The hub site settings inside of here allow me to add an icon, which would show up right beside mine on here. Would say the icon would go in front of the hub, and then you can apply site design. So as a developer, I think it's more of a developer thing because your admins got to get involved. They have to be able to create a site template basically, and then they can push that up to a site design, I should call it, sorry. They can push that up to your Office 365 environment, to your SharePoint environment, and then those options would show up under here where I could have multiple site designs that you can choose from for if you're attached to our hub. And then I can push all those things down to you as well, which is really nice. So if I go here to change the look, I have theme, so I can pick the theme at the top level, and then I can push that down to all these subsites that are attached, or all the sites that are attached to the hub. And when I say sites, I mean site collections or subsites. Okay. In addition to that, I have headers. Okay, so I can choose if my header is compact, which I have it on, or whether it's the normal large version of that. So I just have it in compact because I like that. Okay, and then you can change like the background of that to whatever you want as well. Well, not really whatever you want. It has to be in the style design that you have. The other thing that's here that you'll see is the navigation. So under the navigation, this is where I picked mega menu, or you can pick the cascading menus if you want to. But some of you may be looking at your environment right now, and you may see an extra item here, which is called footer. Okay, which is new, maybe came out in that last round of craziness that happened a few weeks ago when your Office 365 sites were really, really slow. That's when this was happening. But it puts a footer down here at the bottom, and you can decorate that footer. So you can add information to the footer, like copyright information, or corporate information, or here's the link to our normal site, or logos, or whatever you want to add in there. And I think that's cool. To tell you how different things are, in our live environment for Spinistry, we have that already. We have another test environment that we have it there as well. And then in this environment, which is a developer environment, which is also new, it doesn't have it yet. So like if I open this next week, it'll probably be there type of thing. So you're in the cycle somewhere, getting pushed along, and that's okay as well. All right, so let's go back to a couple slides here and kind of do some cleanup. All right. Okay, so your hub site gives you a couple of things. One, it has shared navigation and shared brand. We like that. It search this site or search across the entire hub. We pointed that out, which is really cool. And it kind of gives you a destination home for everything. So looking at these icons that I have on the right-hand side, like if I have HR, but we built out a lot of different sites. We built out a pay and compensation site. We built out a talent acquisition site. And some of these things might even be from third parties that do SharePoint stuff for us. We added it in, like maybe there's a HR request type of site that we have. And then we can put a hub site in there and put all of these under that. And I think that's really kind of cool to be able to do. And that's what hub sites do. They bring it together. Regardless of where those sites originally were, you can still bring them together, and that's important. Okay, just a couple of cases for doing custom modern UI web parts. Right now, in the out-of-the-box modern UI stuff, you cannot do audiences. And so I got an email earlier today that says, hey, can we do audiences? And my response to that was not yet. The person went and looked it up, and she found where it actually is coming, but it's coming for only certain pieces of the modern UI web parts that are out there, not for everything. And so that's a problem, because if you have a portal where you have multiple pieces of organizations, like for example, you have a service center and then you have stores. So you might want the stores to get one experience when they come in and get the service center to have another experience, but you want to create one page to do all that. Audiences were very useful for that, and you can't do those quite yet. Search roll-ups, the closest thing we have is the highlighted web part, which I showed you. Scripts on the page, you're going to have to write code to do that. So basically, you're going to have to do custom web parts, which we call using the SharePoint framework. So you have to do that to get those on there. Chrome branding, that is like where the title for any of the web parts are in there. People like to have those like in different colors. You can't do that here. Branding in general is way different than what it was in the previous version, but you shouldn't have to do too much branding here. Colors and things like that are something you should be able to do. But when you say, hey, I want to change the way the header looks, be careful there, because it's a lot of work, and it's the way the pages draw that might become annoying for your users. So there are places that you can play with and places that you cannot play with in branding. You have to be very specific about what you're trying to change inside of there. But colors and things like that, you should be okay. Reporting, there's probably a little bit better reporting in some respects for the new modern UI, but for the classic UI, there were a lot of tools inside of there that we could use to create like widgets that do reporting and such on our pages. But I think you should probably be moving to Power BI for things like that anyway. So maybe that's the answer. Data aggregation is a really, really hard thing to do. So in classic websites, you could put 5 or 3 web parts on a page. One for the categories, one for the products inside of that category, and then one for all the information that's associated to that particular product, right? And so you could just put 3 web parts on the page in Classic, and you could connect those 3 web parts together, and you change one thing under categories, it just shows you the products inside of that category. And when you click on that product, then it shows you all the details for that product. So you can't do that in the modern UI. You can't connect those web parts together yet. I don't even know if they're working on that. I haven't really researched it, because pretty much what you need at that point is you need to create a SharePoint app to do that. And so what are you talking about, Jared? Let me just see if I can pull up an example. So I have a dev example. So don't expect this to look nice. Okay, it's just a very simple development piece. Okay, and let's imagine that these are categories. I didn't have time to like throw cool icons on them or anything like that. Let's just imagine these are categories for stuff. Okay, and so I have 3 lists under the hood: one for categories, one for products, and one for the product details. How do I make it a better experience inside the modern UI for my end user, or even in Classic? You can use these in Classic as well. How do I bring that together and aggregate all that data so it makes sense for my end users? So what we created there was a search inside of here. So if they search for like the, for the word web, it would just narrow down the product list and such. Okay, and then we also put inside of here, they could click on a particular category and narrow it down to what they see there. Okay, some of the categories don't have anything in it, don't have a lot of data. But when they go see a product and they click on it, you'll see it just flips over and they see all the information about that specific product, which is really kind of cool. Okay, so let's click on this web creation one, has more. So that's a very nice and clean experience for someone. It doesn't take millions of years to develop. You do need a developer to do it, because it is SharePoint framework code. but look at what they gain out of this. So we also have a client in the medical field that wanted to be able to do something really enormous. They were tracking things inside of Excel documents about how to, when referrals come in and all types of other things. And it was a lot of data they were trying to manage inside these Excel documents. And so we turned it into a list. But there were so many rules and such inside of there that it really needed to be more of an application. It needed to be an end user can come and click on a button, see a list of options, click on that option, enter in some information, save it, and then we'll give them back the information in a much better way. We'll show them what's coming up, what's next. And this was extremely helpful. We were able to go in and save them hours and hours of work and calculations on their own by creating an app for this. And that's one of the things that's really nice about the SharePoint framework. So I wish I had more time. We actually will have another webinar about that specific subject. So if you're interested in that, just hang on, it'll be out there. All right, so in the slides that you'll be, I know we're out of time, so in the slides that you'll be receiving from us, you will find that we will have a couple of different links inside of here. This is very important for you. Stay tuned to the roadmap. That's how you know what's coming up and what's next, what they're fixing now, what's coming out in the future. And then I put another technical article in there as well, which is a nice article for roadmap type stuff. Keep that in mind. And then we talked a little bit about the difference between modern and classic and some of the gaps between it, what's still left out, what's missing. So I tried to talk about that along the way. And then so what we've done today is we've talked about, we've shown many features of modern UI. I hope you guys liked that. We looked at SharePoint hub sites. I hope you liked that as well. We took a look at cases for modern UI, and then we looked ahead a little bit at, gave you some links for modern UI and app web parts, the timelines for those. And then we just, along the way, we discussed information about the gaps between modern UI and classic. So with that, if there's any questions, so if you have questions and you wanted them answered, you can hang on, we'll keep going. If you need to leave the webinar, just know that if you need to get some information, you can always email Brittany. She's happy to help you with anything that you need. And then if you're interested in, if you like this webinar, you're gonna love the next webinar as well. The next webinar is on Teams. And so it is Team Up with Microsoft Teams. It is on Thursday, May 30th, 2019, 11:30 to 12:30. We hope you guys appreciate the webinars that we're putting out here. We're just trying to, again, push information out to you so that you guys are aware of the things that we're aware of. All right, with that.
Yep, I did have one question here from John that it might have to do with an update, so I'm not sure if you'll know the answer, Jared, but okay. Try it out. You were talking about the hub site navigation. Mm-hmm. He's wondering if that shows up on mobile devices yet. For him, it wasn't up yet.
So mobile devices, they take away some of the header information, and so I don't think it's an update yet. I think they're still working on that one. And I don't think inside of my my SharePoint app, I don't see that as well. So, and I assume that you're talking about the SharePoint app and not just in a mobile web page. In a mobile web page, it'll be fine. But in the SharePoint app, I don't think it shows up there yet. But hang on, because they're working really hard on that. It'll happen if it's not there now.
Okay, looks like that answered the question. That was our only question. The other ones I've been answering as we went along today. I just wanted to say at the end that you will be receiving an email from us shortly with a recording of the video that you can review or send on to anybody. You also receive the slide deck. If you have any questions at all, feel free to shout out to us and we'll get right back to you.
All right. Thanks, everybody, and have a wonderful day.